If you remember 6 equations, you can solve 90% of the two-port networks problems. Two variables V1 and I1 are present at the first port. Two variables V2, I2 are present at the second port. There are 4 variables V1, I1, V2, I2. If you take 2 variables out of 4 variables at a time, then 6 possible combinations will be generated. 6 possible combinations means 6 type of parameters are present in two-port networks. Let us see. V1, V2 is the function of I1, I2. This is related with the Z parameter. I1, I2 is the function of V1, V2. This is related with the Y parameter. V1, I1 is the function of V2 minus I2. This is related with the T parameters. V2, I2 is the function of V1 minus I1. This equation is related with the T dash parameter. V1, I2 is the function of I1, V2. This equation is related with the H parameter. I1, V2 is the function of V1, I2. This is related with the G parameters. So you have to remember these 6 equations and you can solve 90% of the two-port networks problems. Let us understand the meaning of the equation number 1. Equation number 1 in matrix form can be written in this way. V1, V2 is the function of I1, I2. This will be Z11, Z12, Z21, Z22. If you solve this matrix, you will get V1 equals to Z11 I1 plus Z12 I2 and V2 equals to Z21 I1 plus Z22 I2. You can see here these equations are related with the Z parameters. Equation number 2, I1, I2 is the function of V1, V2 is related with the Y parameters. You can write in this way. I am not going to write in the matrix form because these equations are not useful in the matrix form. You have to write in this way. I1, I2 is the function of V1, V2. You have to directly write it without taking the help of matrix form. You can write it. I1, I2 is the function of V1, V2 and these equations are related with the Y parameters. Y11, Y12, Y21 and Y22. Let us write equation number 3. Equation number 3 is V1, I1 is the function of V2 minus I2 and this equation is related with the T parameters or ABCD parameters. So V1, I1 is the function of V2 minus I2 and this is related with the transmission parameters or ABCD parameters. Let us write equation number 4. Equation number 4 is V2 I2 is the function of V1 minus I1 and this is related with the T dash parameters or A dash, B dash, C dash, D dash parameters. Equation number 5 is V1 I2 is the function of I1 V2, and this is related with the hybrid parameters H11 H12 H21 H22. Equation number 6 is I1 V2 is the function of V1 I2, and this equation number 6 is related with the inverse hybrid parameters or G parameters. So you can write I1 V2 is the function of V1 I2, and these equations are related with the G parameters G11, G12, G21 and G22. So if you remember 6 equations, you can write these equations in this form and you can solve almost 90% of the problems of the two-port networks. We are going to solve this problem. In this problem, we have to find out all the parameters Z, Y, T, T dash, H and G parameters. To solve this problem, first we will find out 2 equations related with this network. Current I1 is flowing in 1 ohm resistor and current I2 is flowing in this 2 ohm resistor. Can you tell me the current in 3 ohm resistor? Apply KCL at this node and you will find the current in 3 ohm resistor. The current in 3 ohm resistor will be I1 plus I2. Now use KVL in this loop and find out the equation V1 equals to 1 into I1 plus 3 into I1 plus I2. After solving this equation, you will get V1 equals to 4I1 plus 3I2. This is the first equation which I have got from this network. Now use KVL in this loop and write the equation V2 equals to 2I2 plus 3I1 plus I2. After solving this equation, you will get V2 equals to 3I1 plus 5I2. These are the 2 equations which I have calculated from this network. By using these 2 equations, I can find all the parameters related with this network. You have to use these 2 equations only. Just you can forget this network. I will use these 2 equations and you can see how I am going to find out all the parameters. Let us calculate Z parameters by using these 2 equations. The equations related with the Z parameters are V1, V2 is the function of I1, I2. It will be Z11, Z12, Z21 and Z22. If you compare this equation with the first equation, you will get Z11 equals to 4, Z12 equals to 3. If you compare this equation with this equation, you will get Z21 equals to 3 and Z22 equals to 5. Can you tell me the units of Z11, Z12, Z21 and Z22? What is the definition of Z11? Z11 equals to V1 upon I1 when I2 equals to 0. In the same way, you can write the equation you can find out the value of Z21. Z21 equals to V2 upon I1 when I2 equals to 0. Can you tell me the value of Z12? Z12 equals to V1 upon I2 when I1 equals to 0. And Z22 can be defined in this way. Z22 equals to V2 upon I2 when I1 equals to 0. The unit of Z11 will be ohm because this is the ratio of voltage and current. Can you tell me the unit of Z12? It is the ratio of voltage and current, so the unit will be ohm. This Z21 is the ratio of voltage and current, so the unit will be ohm, and the Z22 is also the ratio of voltage and current, so it will be ohm. So all the parameters, all the Z parameters will have the unit ohm. So in this way you have calculated Z parameters. In the matrix form you can write 4 ohm, 3 ohm, 3 ohm and 5 ohm. So you have calculated Z parameters with the help of these two equations. Let us calculate Y parameters with the help of these two equations. The Y parameters, the equations related with the Y parameters are I1, I2 is the function of V1, V2. Y11 is defined in this way. Y11 equals to I1 upon V1 when V2 equals to 0, and Y21 is equal to I2 upon V1 when V2 equals to 0. So put the value of V2 equals to 0 in these two equations and calculate the value of I1 upon V1. The ratio of I1 upon V1 will be Y11 and the ratio of I2 upon V1 will be Y21. Let us see. V2 is not present in the first equation, so it will remain as it is. V1 equals to 4I1 plus 3I2. Put the value of V2 equals to 0 in this second equation. 0 equals to 3I1 plus 5I2. You have to solve these two equations. So find out the value of I2. I2 equals to minus 3I1 upon 5, and put the value of I2 in this at this place. So V1 equals to 4I1 plus 3 into minus 3I1 upon 5. So V1 equals to 4I1 minus 9I1 upon 5. So V1 equals to 20I1 minus 9I1 upon 5. So V1 equals to 11I1 upon 5, and I1 upon V1 will be 5 by 11 and the unit will be mho. So the value of Y11 equals to 5 upon 11. You have got the value of Y11. Now we will calculate the value of I2 upon V1 by using these two equations. So you have already got the value of I1 upon V1. I1 upon V1 equals to 5 upon 11. So find out the value of I1 by using this equation and put it here. So I1 equals to minus 5 I2 upon 3. So the value of I2 upon V1 equals to minus 3 upon 11. And the unit will be mho. So the value of Y21 equals to minus 3 upon 11 mho. So in this way you have got the value of Y11 and Y21. Now this Y12 can be defined in this way. Y12 equals to I1 upon V2 when V1 equals to 0, and Y22 equals to I2 upon V2 when V1 equals to 0. So put V1 equals to 0 in these two equations and find out the ratio of I1 upon V2, that will be Y12, and the ratio of I2 upon V2 will be Y22. Put V1 equals to 0, so V1 will be 0 equals to 4I1 plus 3I2. V1 is not present in this equation, so the equation will remain as it is. We have to find out the value of I1 upon V2. So V2 equals to 3I1 and replace I2 with I1. So 5. By using this equation you can say that I2 equals to minus 4I1 upon 3. So you can say that V2 equals to 9I1 minus 20I1 upon 3. So V2 equals to minus 11I1 upon 3, and the value of I1 upon V2 will be minus 3 upon 11 mho. So the value of Y12 will be minus 3 upon 11. And can you tell me the value of I2 upon V2? So I am going to replace I1 with I2 with the help of this equation. I1 equals to minus 3I2 upon 4. Minus 3I2 upon 4 minus 3 upon 11. So I2 upon V2 equals to 4 upon 11. So this is the value of Y22. In this way we have calculated the Y parameters. In the matrix form we can write the value of Y11 is 5 by 11, Y21 is minus 3 by 11, and the value of Y12 is minus 3 by 11, and value of Y22 is 4 upon 11. So in this way you have calculated Y parameters with the help of these two equations. Let us calculate T parameters. You know the equations related with the T parameters. V1 I1 is the function of V2 minus I2, and you can write these two equations. This A is defined in this way. A equals to V1 upon V2 when I2 equals to 0, and this C is defined in this way. C equals to I1 upon V2 when I2 equals to 0. So with the help of these two equations we have to find out all the parameters. So put I2 equals to 0 in these two equations. I2 is present in this first equation, so it will be V1 equals to 4I1, and this equation will be V2 equals to 3I1. With the help of these two equations you have to calculate the ratio of V1 upon V2, and you have to calculate the ratio of I1 upon V2. You can easily find out the ratio of V1 upon V2, and that will be 4 upon 3, and this is the ratio of voltage and voltage, so this will be unitless. You can also find out the value of I1 upon V2, and it will be 1 upon 3, and the unit will be mho. So the value of A equals to 4 upon 3, and the value of C equals to 1 upon 3. Now let us find out the value of B and D. B will be defined in this way. B equals to V1 upon I2, V1 upon minus I2 when V2 equals to 0, and D will be defined in this way, minus I1 upon I2 when V2 equals to 0. So you have to put V2 equals to 0 in these two equations. V2 is not present, so this equation will remain as it is. V1 equals to 4I1 plus 3I2, and put V2 equals to 0, 3I1 plus 5I2. With the help of these two equations you have to calculate the ratio of V1 minus V1 upon I2. So this will be 11 upon 3 ohm, and the ratio of minus I1 upon I2 will be 5 upon 3, and it will be unitless. You can easily solve these equations and find out the value of these two, and you can write B equals to 11 upon 3 ohm and D equals to 5 upon 3. So in this way the T parameters will be, the value of A is 4 upon 3, the value of A is 4 upon 3, C is 1 upon 3, the value of B is 11 upon 3, and D is 5 upon 3. So in this way we have calculated T parameters with the help of these two equations. Let us find out T dash parameters. The equations related with the T dash parameters are V2 I2 is the function of V1 minus I1. So you can write these two equations. So A dash will be defined in this way. A dash equals to V2 upon V1 when I1 equals to 0. C dash will be defined in this way. C dash equals to I2 upon V1 when I1 equals to 0. So put the value of I1 equals to 0 in these two equations and you will get V1 equals to 3I2 and V2 equals to 5I2. You can solve these equations and you can find out the ratio of V2 and V1, and you can also find out the ratio of I2 and V1. So you will get the value of A dash equals to 5 upon 3, and the value of C dash will be 1 upon 3. Now B dash is defined in this way: B dash equals to minus V2 upon I1 when V1 equals to 0, and D dash will be defined as minus I2 upon I1 when V1 equals to 0. So put V1 equals to 0 in these two equations. So it will be 0 equals to 4I1 plus 3I2, and V1 is not present in the second equation, so second equation will remain as it is, 3I1 plus 5I2. You can solve these equations and you can find out the value of B dash and D dash. The value of B dash will be 11 upon 3 and the value of D dash will be 4 upon 3. You can see that D dash will be unitless because this is the ratio of current, and B dash will have the unit of ohm because it is the ratio of voltage and current. So in this way the T dash parameters will be 5 upon 3, 1 upon 3, 11 upon 3 and 4 upon 3. So in this way we have calculated the T dash parameters with the help of these two equations. Let us calculate H parameters. H11 can be defined in this way: H11 equals to V1 upon I1 when V2 equals to 0, and H21 can be defined in this way: H21 equals to I2 upon I1 when V2 equals to 0. So put V2 equals 0 in these two equations. Equation 1 will remain as it is, V1 equals to 4I1 plus 3I2, and 0 equals to 3I1 plus 5I2. With the help of these two equations you can find out the value of V1 upon I1 and I2 upon I1. So H11, you will get the value of H11 equals to 11 upon 5 ohm, and the value of H21 will be minus 3 upon 5, and it will be unitless. Now let us find out the value of H12. H12 will be V1 upon V2 when I1 equals to 0, and H22 will be I2 upon V2 when I1 equals to 0. So put I1 equals to 0 in these two equations. So V1 equals to 0 plus 3I2 and V2 equals to 0 plus 5I2. With the help of these two equations you have to find out the value of V1 upon V2 and I2 upon V2. You will get H12 equals to 3 upon 5 and H22 will be 1 upon 5 mho. So in this way the H parameters will be 11 upon 5 minus 3 upon 5, 3 upon 5 and 1 upon 5. Let us find out G parameters. The equations related with the G parameters are these: I1 V2 is the function of V1 I2. Let us see how G11 can be defined. G11 equals to I1 upon V1 when I2 equals to 0, and G21 equals to V2 upon V1 when I2 equals to 0. So put I2 equals 0 in these two equations. You will get V1 equals to 4I1 and V2 equals to 3I1. With the help of these two equations you have to find out the value of G11 and G21. The value of G11 will be 1 upon 4 and the value of G21 will be 3 upon 4. Now let us define G12. G12 will be I1 upon I2 when V1 equals to 0, and G22 will be V2 upon I2 when V1 equals to 0. Put V1 equals to 0 in these two equations. V1 0 equals to 4I1 plus 3I2, and second equation will remain as it is. With the help of these two equations, you have to calculate the value of G12 and G22. G12 will be minus 3 by 4 and G22 will be 11 upon 4. So the G parameters will be 1 upon 4, 3 upon 4, minus 3 upon 4 and 11 upon 4. So in this way we have completed this problem. The main aim is to find out two equations in the terms of V1, V2, I1, I2, and by using these two equations you can find out any parameter of the two-port network.